everybody, my name is Ranger Ellen.
And I'm Ranger Taylor.
And welcome to the City of Prescott's Community Nature Center. So today we're going to be going on a little bit of a hike and adventure, similar to if you came here and went on a tour or came to one of our programs as a school student or community member. So we're going to be exploring our trail system here. So just like all of our trail maps in the city, the rating is marked next to the trail name, difficult, easy, moderate, and the length of the trail. And these are color coded at the Nature Center so you can easily find your way around. So here at the Nature Center, we'll be visiting a lot of sites, including our different classrooms here, the different viewpoints we have, our pond area, and of course the historical marker here. So we're going to be going on a big adventure together today. Before we go, I'm going to have a chat with Ranger Taylor about some of the things we consider before going on a hike here.
Yeah, so while we're here, we ask that you follow our Community Nature Center guidelines, which can be found on our signs, and they speak to leave no trace and other things, so please check them out because we are a certified wildlife habitat, and we love that about this space, so help us please take care of it.
All right, and as you come in, you'll see these at a lot of our trailheads in the city. This is our trail comment box. It helps us keep track of everyone who comes here. And if you see something you have a question about or you'd like a ranger to look into, you can leave us a note. This kind of data is what helps us make decisions about what to fund, what to improve on, and how to take care of this space. As you're coming into the Nature Center, you'll notice our welcome sign, which has those guidelines Ranger Taylor talked about. But the cool thing is we also have what's called the signs of the month. And every month we put out a different one of these little walking guides. You can grab them at the entrance. They'll talk to you about different plants you might see, animals. Right here we've got the time of the gamble quail, so maybe we'll hear some of them today. When you're done with that, you just put that into our used bin down here, and we will sanitize and get it ready for the next visitors. So the Community Nature Center has a really long and rich history as a part of this Prescott community. In 1974, it was first purchased and started by Prescott Unified School District, which owned and operated their own nature center for decades. As funding began to dry up, the Highland Center came in and started their nonprofit here as well, which eventually moved out to the Prescott National Forest. In 2005, that was when the city of Prescott first purchased this site and designated it an open space preserve. And so that model is the model we use today. We are an open space preserve. That means you can come here any day, 7 a.m. to sunset. It's absolutely free. This is your public and community lands. And we serve many, many different community members here. And we primarily work with Prescott Unified School District, providing free outdoor learning and environmental learning opportunities to every student in our community. So thanks so much. And we're gonna get to see a little bit more here. Ranger Taylor is gonna take us on over to the cabin.
Yeah, so you can see behind us we have our cabin, which is a historical replica that was built in 1974 in conjunction with the Prescott Unified School District shop class. So high schoolers back in the 1970s were a part of building this cabin, which we think is so special. And today we use it to store all of our supplies for the work that we do with Prescott Unified School District.
So, welcome to our nature play area. This is a part of the Community Nature Center that is designed specifically for our smallest visitors. So we have rules for our responsible grown-ups here and also for our little ones about sharing and being kind in our play area. And it's really neat. This is just a small example of what we're going to be working on across the city to be installing nature play areas for our small friends here. And that means places that they can be creative, have big body movement and interactions, and connect with the natural world while outdoors. There's some really cool research that shows that children are more inclusive and more imaginative when they play in natural areas versus on typical playgrounds. So we'll come show you some of those features that are in our nature play area. So come on in. We've got blocks, and these blocks are great, right? We can build towers, we can build forts, we can build whole imaginary worlds. We also have lots of things that are called loose parts. Loose parts are things that are based on Simon Nicholson's theory of loose parts. He's an architect, and his theory is that the degree of inventiveness is directly correlated to the variety of factors that you have in the area to work with. And so part of that means that the more different items we have for kids to work with, play with, discover, the more creative they can be. And when they are things such as blocks and rocks and cardboard tubes, these can be things that we can't even imagine. So instead of just a, small plastic car being a car, this can be a telescope. This can be a muffin, or this can be a hat. All of these things encourage children to think in new ways and become the engineers, designers, and creative leaders that we need in this world. So we've got tires for big body things, stumps to jump across, mud kitchens for some mad science to happen over there, and really just a whole variety of things that are at the right height and accessible level to encourage those small folks to play and get down and dirty with nature in ways that we can't do in other parts of the nature center because we're trying to take care of those more natural spaces.
All right, so I am standing here in between our native plant garden, which is located right next to the cabin and nature play area. And this area has all of the native plants that can be found at the Nature Center and that thrive here. And you can see all of them, learn their names without having to walk around the Nature Center. It's super accessible and a fun way to learn about the plants. And I'll let Ranger Ellen tell you about a few of them.
Ooh, all right, so let's check out a few of my favorite plants in this garden here. And I recommend coming at different times of the year because right after monsoons, the whole thing explodes with flowers. So some of the ones that we have in here is our prairie clover. And the reason I point out our prairie clover is because it grows super well here and it's one of our favorite ones for attracting pollinators. So pollinators are a huge part of our habitat garden, a huge part of why we plant and care for the things that we do. Another one of the cool plants that we have in here is a native grass that I really love. This one's called blue grama. It's a part of the grama family of grasses that we have here at the Nature Center. You can find blue grama, hairy grama, and black grama. These are some of the most nutritious grasses that can be found in central Arizona. So when we're talking about caring for the space, some of the things we do is we remove invasive grasses such as cheatgrass from this area and reseed with grasses we know will support our wildlife, such as this beautiful blue grama here. So we get all kinds of visitors here at the Community Nature Center, including hikers, walkers, explorers, and folks taking their pets on an adventure. We have a special visitor who's here with us today. Come on over here and we can say hi to one of our hikers. So something we really appreciate all of our visitors here is the way this gentleman and his pet are following our rules, staying on leash and staying on our trails to care for this space. And what a special day, not your typical friend you see out on the trails here in Prescott. Thanks so much for visiting and have a great hike.
And up here is where we bring a lot of students and visitors to teach about the Prescott Watershed. So you can see Granite Mountain, all the way over to Glassford Hill, my personal favorite, the Bradshaws, and then over to the Sierra Prieta with Thumb Butte. And we love it up here. It's a super awesome teaching spot.
Wait, Ranger Taylor, why do you love the Bradshaws so much?
Because they're so beautiful and there's so many different types of trees and animals, and it just feels so different than other places. I think it's a super special spot.
All right, well, I want to show you something really cool here if you come close. Something we love to look for at the Nature Center, especially when we're in large groups and we're a little bit loud, is look for the signs of the animals if we can't see the animals themselves. So right here, we have some animal scat. And this to me looks like scat from a pack rat, or a wood rat is another word for that. And they build these elaborate nests. And we look all around with kids and we see them tucked into the rocks. So we'll show you a few of those while we go out today. The other thing I want to show you is another thing right here. Every moment we go somewhere in nature, there's so many things to look about and learn about. One of the things we have here is called lichen. And just on this rock alone, we can see 1, 2, 3 different species of lichen. And what we hear all the time from folks is, what plant is that? Well, here's the cool thing. Lichen is not technically a plant. Lichen is a term for the relationship between fungi and algae that work together to survive in really difficult situations, such as here on this rock where there's no soil, there's a lot of sun beating down, maybe no water for long periods of time. And what they do is they work together to photosynthesize and to break down nutrients in the soil and basically help each other do the tasks that they cannot do alone to live in these harsh situations. And scientists have tried to recreate this in a lab, and they found that if they made the situations perfect for lichen to form, it didn't. It actually needed that struggle to get the algae and the fungi to cooperate. such a fascinating species to explore here at the Nature Center. There's so many varieties. So we'll see if we see any more while we're out hiking. Now, before we leave this beautiful lookout with Ranger Taylor, a place that we call Quartz Mountain, I want to show you why we call it that. And along here, you have a beautiful vein of quartz. And this quartz in granite, a quartz vein, also known by miners as a white spar, was one of the indicators that folks look for early back in the 1860s when they were coming here and looking for places to mine in Prescott. And that was a part of the original rush of folks coming to this area to settle. It's because they saw things such as this quartz vein and thought, there could be gold in this area. This quartz vein is also a great place to check out some more of that amazing lichen. So just like everywhere in Prescott, the natural landscape is full of resources. Natural resources are something we teach about a lot at the Nature Center. One of those is the way in which people have used plants in this landscape since time immemorial for food, shelter, and other materials. And just on this little stretch of trail here, we have some great examples. Right here, we have a small emery oak coming in. We have a couple more of those around the area. The emery oak is one of the oaks that you can harvest acorns from. We still recommend washing them, but because there is a low amount of tannins in the nuts, they're actually one of the most edible acorns that you can harvest here in Arizona. We also have a bear grass. Now the bear grass has these amazingly strong fibers in it. And you can see just here, I don't even know. I can't even break that. These fibers have been used for sewing, for creating, putting different materials together, for baskets, for so many things for a long time. And just giving that a tug, it's really hard to break fibers like this. Even though they are dry and rotten, they're really, really strong. And when you take apart the green fibers, those things can last for years. Just over here too, we also have the pinyon pine. One of my favorite pines to smell. It has some of the sweetest pine sap to it. It also produces pine nuts, or the pinyon nut. And that was another huge staple of food that indigenous communities continue to harvest in this area and across central Arizona. And just similar to the pine nuts that you make in maybe your pesto at home, these pine nuts were used for all sorts of cuisines. You're lucky if you can harvest them today though, because the squirrels and other animals love the pine nuts too, and it's stiff competition to get there before they're all gone. So these are the pine cones of the pinyon pine, and within each one of these you'll find the small pine nuts resting on each one of those layers of the pine cone or the pine seed. Each one of these seeds is highly nutritious. However, I bet you if I break this one open, we won't be able to see the meat in it. Yep, this is one of the ones that is rotten. And usually this time of year, if you're finding one, it's probably rotten because all the good ones have been eaten by the squirrels. So remember earlier when we found that scat sign together? Well, we saw a little bit more scat and we did some investigating. So not only do we have scat right here, but back behind this, up under this rock, is one of the pack rat or wood rat dens. You can see the sticks piled in there. We talk with kids about how that kind of reminds you of log cabins. But the cool thing is that pack rats will reuse the same site for long periods of time. Because of that, researchers especially, have used these dens to identify plant species that used to be here thousands of years ago, or to see what kind of food, how food sources in the area have changed over time, because pack rats are so good at storing things. They're also good at getting into your house and car though, so keep an eye on those in the neighborhood. There's just so many places to stop when you're out in nature, and the lovely thing about our nature center is they're just a few feet away. So down the hill we came, and here we are at another awesome item. We have here what's called mistletoe. Now you may be thinking, wait, is that the stuff we kiss under at the holidays? No, similar, but this here mistletoe is a parasitic plant. What happens is these little flowers here turn into berries. The birds eat these tasty little berries that come out of it. They fly around and they poop on another tree. And in that poop are the seeds of the mistletoe, which then grow down into the tree and reform the new mistletoe plant. The reason it's parasitic is because it's taking nutrients from the tree, and on oaks like this, it can begin to cause some damage to the trees over time. But it's also a huge part of food for the native bird species that live in our area. So it's one of the things that we develop a balanced relationship with in order to support both the plants and the animals that come here. Now, as we're also here by this oak, you may say, is this oak starting to die because of the mistletoe? And it's a really good question. The funny thing is that the majority of the oaks here in Prescott lose their leaves in the spring. That's right. Living in Prescott is special because we get 2 autumn fall leaf color seasons, one in the actual autumn and one in the spring when our oaks lose their leaves as well. So no, this little scrub oak here is doing just fine. It's just losing its leaves right now, and when those monsoon rains come, you'll see it burst back into green life again.
All right, so welcome to our Hardyville Road little exhibit here. This road behind us, which is now Williamson Valley Road, was originally called the Hardyville Road, which was the first road made by European settlers in Arizona way back in the 1800s. It was not the first road in Arizona at all. Indigenous communities had roads all over, but it was the first one, the first major one that European settlers made. And it covers actually 2 springs that are here, and there's a 3rd spring down the road. So this was a major area to get water from, and this pump here pumps from a well that gets water from those springs. Because the springs are covered by the road, we're not able to directly get water from the springs, but we can get them from the well. So this is a great educational area for us to bring visitors and students. And now we should see what happens when we pump the pump. We'll see if it works. Oh, and it's still working. And as you can see, we have a replica sluice here that originally would have been used for miners getting gold. So we have that here to be able to show our students and have gold inside some days for them to take home. So it's super fun.
We had to stop. One more amazing pack rat den. Come check this big one out. Oh, look at the size of that. Probably a couple generations at least living in that home. Pretty neat stuff.
All right, everybody, so welcome to our pond area. This area is so near and dear to the rangers. It's also a riparian area, meaning where the upland area meets our aquatic area. So that's super cool, and there's lots of different life down here. We also have an outdoor classroom where we teach a bunch of different classes to the Prescott Unified School District kiddos, and that's super special. And this pond is home to so many different animals. We have a wildlife camera down here. Oh, we have a special friend already over here. On our camera, we'll find raccoons, ducks, coyotes. Sometimes we've seen bobcats, also birds, all sorts of different animals. So this area is home to such a diverse amount of animals, and it's really special to us as well. A project that we're working on right now with Arizona Game and Fish is to actually become a native fish refuge. And we are going to be getting the endangered Gila top minnow, which is a super special fish that is native to Arizona and will be in our pond. And this will be an awesome opportunity for us to provide education to kids and to help the endangered Gila top minnow.
We're also here by a strange installation. Can you guess what this big wooden feature is? Maybe you've seen one before, maybe you haven't. This is a bat house, and we installed these in partnership with GEM Environmental, a local scientific charity, in order to create more bat habitat for species here in the Prescott area. Bats are pretty particular though. They want to be in a space that's not near any trees because the predators can get to them that way. They also want something that's high enough off the ground so they can easily fly up and into those little slots and nestle in for the daytime. Now, it's kind of cool to be out here in this bat zone, and while I was doing that, I also noticed something down at my feet I wanted to stop at. And this is another one of those animal signs at the Nature Center. Right here we have a trail with what to me looks like deer coming across this flat area. The way you know it's deer is they have hooves, or their tracks look similar to 2 fingers that were pressed into the soil just like that. Now, telling a deer and a javelina apart can be a little bit tricky. The javelina tracks will be slightly more pointed, and also the length of their step will be a little bit shorter than that of a deer. Also, you can look at things such as the depth of the track and try and guess at the weight of the animal that it took to create that impact in the soil. So we use all these different signs and that evidence to work with students or visitors to try and figure out who lives here, what happened, what did they come through, and what were they doing? So we're gonna play a little round of Find That Lizard. Maybe you watched the city's last video by Afro Herper and the game on Instagram called Find That Lizard. Right down in here, can you see it? Camouflaged against the rock in the shade in the sun is a small, what I believe is the Arizona spiny lizard. I'm not a lizard expert though. If you've got good questions about that, I recommend reaching out to folks at the Natural History Institute or the Highland Center, one of our awesome places in town, to find out some more about the different lizard species we have here. It's exciting to find that. We were on a hunt back here looking for the garter snake we heard about. This little buddy's pretty nervous right now. So as you can see, they're hiding their head right underneath here. See if we can get the little face to peek out. And we love these snake species at the Nature Center. They're so important for helping us manage rodent populations, and also they are food for other species that live here as well. We get really lucky when we find a snake like this and can have an opportunity to share with our visitors. Now, you may not be able to tell, but the snake smells pretty stinky right now. When animals like this get nervous, one thing they often do is they'll urinate. So I can tell this friend here is a little bit nervous, and I don't want to make that any worse for her. Although I don't know actually the gender of the snake. That's something I'm not a specialist in either. But absolutely stunning, beautiful, beautiful creature. Now, if you do see snakes on the trail, we always recommend that you stop and step back and keep your distance. If you don't know a lot about snakes, it's very easy to misidentify a snake species and accidentally pick up one that can cause harm. In addition, even if the snake is non-venomous, it still can have little teeth in that mouth there or other defenses that may be unpleasant to encounter. So with all wildlife, the most important thing you can do is give it space or ask a ranger or someone else to help you with your identification and understanding of the species. So I think it's about time we let this little one go. Just want to make sure she's okay. You see the coiling she's doing is to try and appear bigger or larger while also protecting her body. But we want her to get off the trail because we don't want anyone else to step on her. So if she's not going to go, we're going to give her a little bit of a boost and encourage her to find a different place to relax. So in the little tree here, maybe you can see the little bird hopping around, or the little high-pitched peep, peep. It's a small gray bird, maybe about length of my thumb for its body, a long gray butt. They're usually found in flocks, but sometimes alone, especially during this time of year. This is called a bush tit. They're insectivores. They're very tiny, and then one way I identify them is if you ever hear what sounds like a small, cheerful laser fight in the woods. You'll hear pew, 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 pew. That's them keeping track of where the other birds are so that they can alert each other to any predators in the area. But this one's making pretty happy chirps right now, probably because it's eating a lot of tasty bugs it's finding under the bark on this little pinyon pine right here. since we are on a springtime walk and we're thinking about staying safe and having fun on our trails and our explorations, it's important to talk about this little phenomena that many of us know well in the spring, and that is pollen. So for a lot of folks who are feeling sniffles this time of year, that could be due to juniper pollen. That juniper pollen makes big clouds across our city in the springtime when the male junipers release the pollen from their pollen cones and search for the seeds on the female juniper. And the easy way to tell if you're going out on a picnic and you do have allergies, which trees you can sit under and which not, is to look at the color of the tree. So right here we have a juniper, and you can see it's orangey yellow. Whew, I feel a sneeze coming on. The orange yellow color of the tree. And in the back behind there we have a female juniper, and that's that dark green color, same color year round. What you'll see on that are the berries. So if you come close, you'll be able to see the pollen cones on this juniper, and that's where that pollen comes from. It's making a lot of us a little sniffly right now. So within each of these is where the pollen comes from. And these have almost dropped all their pollen right now. See if I give it a shake. Ooh, there's a cloud. Let's see if we get another. And then I'll sneeze. That's the male juniper and the pollen cones. Luckily, we're coming to the end of that. The female over there will have the berries, and since we've had some ethnobotanical or human and plant relationship talks on this hike, it's important to know the juniper and those juniper berries are another one of the plants that can be consumed in different ways out here. I don't recommend eating juniper berries plain. Too many of them can give you stomach cramps, but they are what's used to make gin or other tonics and a lot of different medicinal uses as well. Now, one thing is when you're looking for juniper berries, always make sure you're picking up the right objects. So I went down here to pick up juniper berries. I also encountered something small and similarly shaped. However, I do not want to eat this because right here in my right hand is rabbit scat. Similar in size and color, but not at all tasty. All right, everyone, that was an amazing day. Thanks for coming to the City of Prescott's Community Nature Center. I had a blast going on a hike with you, and I hope that I see you out here sometime soon. You can come by any day of the week, 7 a.m. to sunset. We're always free. We're always full of cool nature discoveries to be had.